Okay, a very good morning, everyone. I hope that everyone can see and hear me well. Welcome to this digital press event. I'm Leonard Verstappen. I work as a corporate communication advisor at the Antwerp Port Authority, and I will be your host for today. We have attendees from various countries across Europe, and we're very thankful for your interest in the Port of Antwerp, and more specifically, for your interest in innovation practice at our ports. This is the first time that we're organizing a digital press event, so please bear with us if there are any technical hiccups. But of course, we will do our best so that everything runs as smoothly as possible. Okay. The session will last approximately 1 hour. Please note that everyone is put on mute. If you have questions for the speakers, please ask them via the question tab on the right side of your screen. You will see there that there is a tab that says questions there. You'll be able to type in your questions for the speakers. But because we have 5 speakers today, I think it would be more practical if you could address your question to a specific speaker so that they know that the question is directed to them. So just, for example, if you have a question for Erwin, you can just say question for Erwin and then write your question. Also note that this session is being recorded and that the recording will be shared with you afterwards. On the agenda today, we have for you a couple of very exciting topics. First, we will dive into the port's innovation initiatives and strategy and how we are enabling the Port of Antwerp to sail full steam ahead into the future. And besides that, we have invited 3 strategic partners of the port to highlight some pioneering projects. Rombit, they will talk about edge-based computer vision and smart cameras. The University of Antwerp will elaborate a project where drones are used to detect oil spills. And finally, CFAR will present Ship Management 2.0, how navigation can be supported remotely on shore. At the end of the session, we will have a brief moment to answer some of your questions. The remaining questions, they will be answered at a later stage. So let's begin. Our first speakers for today, you can already see them below, are from the Port of Antwerp, and they are Erwin Verstralen and Piet Opstalen. Erwin, he became Chief Digital and Innovation Officer in November 2017, which was a new position in the Executive Committee. In this role, Erwin is responsible for digitalization and innovation in the port ecosystem at large. One of Erwin's team's innovation enablement is being managed by Piet Opstalen. His team is responsible for executing concrete innovation projects and making the port of the future tangible. Erwin, Piet, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Leonard, and thank you to all the attendees from around Europe. It's an honor to have you with us. Our prime goal for today, certainly for me, is to make very clear to all of you that ports can and are innovation hubs. And there are very good reasons why that is so. And secondly, as you will see throughout the next presentations, that is also linked to a strong ecosystem of partners that enable us to get where we want to go. Now, if you talk about innovation and the drivers for innovation, it's important to understand the context from where you start. And in our case, it's a port that has become a world port over the last 3 decades, which results for this moment in a tonnage of 238 million tons on a yearly basis, just maritime, 144,000 jobs, 20 billion euros of added value, and around 1,000 companies. So the Port of Antwerp is an ecosystem, is a platform of about 1,000 companies. And on top of that, it's not just your traditional port, but it's also the home port of the 2nd largest petrochemical cluster on the planet. Now, to give you an idea of what kind of an evolution we've gone through, I've selected 2 visuals. This is the Port of Antwerp on the left bank at the end of the 80s, so around 1989, when globalization still had to kick up in terms of speed, and when the largest container vessel on the planet was something like 5,000 TEU, so 5,000 standard container boxes. Moving forward 30 years, the same area looks like this, including the second or the largest container terminal in Europe and the largest lock on the planet, and a fully developed environment. And in the meantime, the biggest container vessel on the planet is 23,000 boxes, not any longer 5. Now, all of these successes from the past and the position we have obtained don't make us blind for the fact that we're facing a perfect storm. And a perfect storm means that there is a convergence of forces taking place that are impacting us at the same time and are reinforcing one another. And of course, technology is one of them. Today we talk about digitalization, digital innovation, but it goes beyond just digital. All kinds of new technologies, drones, autonomous vessels are moving up on the radar, and further down the road we have even more spectacular things like quantum. Secondly, geopolitics. This globalized world is under pressure. More and more countries are taking unilateral decisions. And for us, that means that some of our most important trading partners like China, Russia, the United States, and the UK are taking decisions that impact us on a daily basis. Third, we need to go after room for sustainable growth. There is not one port in Western Europe that is not in a discussion mode with society about can ports still grow. Now that is very key because otherwise there's no standstill, you go backwards. Number 4 is climate change. For sure, this is something that is not part of the future, it's already being felt today. The last couple of years, we felt the impact of low water tides and water levels on the Rhine impacting barge cargo in and out. And then finally, linked to that, of course, is also energy transition. Because if you're the home port of the second largest petrochemical cluster on the planet that has to move into 2050 to a zero carbon emission environment, that means a lot of challenges, but also room for innovation. So if you bring all these things together, you understand that we live in a world of known unknowns that are going to be associated by a lot of unknown unknowns. And this is a slide that I've been using in all my presentations for the last 2 years. So think about it from the context of where we are today with this pandemic. And I leave it up to you to decide whether the COVID crisis is a known unknown or an unknown unknown. Okay, so if we understand that this is taking place, for us it was clear at the beginning of 2018 and the end of 2017 that the key elements of our success in the past were not necessarily going to help us move forward. So it brought us to the drawing board, asking ourselves the fundamental questions: who do we want to be moving forward? What is our reason for existence? Where do we make an impact? So it was a full cycle mission, vision, and strategy that brought us to understanding how we were going to move forward. And the mission that we came up with is, on the next slide, we want a home port vital for a sustainable future. And that small sentence means a lot because it's an indication that we see ourselves as this platform, as a test bed for innovative solutions, that we want to bring to the table solutions for mobility, for energy transition, for climate change, and so on. So we don't want to sit idle. We want to take our full force, steam ahead, and be a pioneer, be someone who acts as a catalyst, acts as a lever towards coming up with relevant solutions. And of course, you already feel that innovation is a key element in all of that. So starting from that new mission vision, we said, okay, for the next 3 years, which is already an indication of how volatile and uncertain this world has become, because a port that has a strategy for 3 years is a token of we can't predict the future moving forward further down the road than 3 to 5 years. So we said, okay, mobility, sustainable growth, safety, security, operational excellence, and transition, which encompass about the 70 projects that are already an indication of that new mission statement. So multimodal transportation, setting up new zones for circular economy, being a lever towards CO2 capture and storage, being the one who drives this entire port ecosystem in leveraging and using and embracing digitization. So that is setting the scene. But of course, we need a longer term compass, and that is linked to the roles that we fulfill as a port authority. And my colleague and dear friend, Piet Opstallen, will take the floor now to walk you through where we see our role in innovation in these 4 different roles we fulfill. Piet, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to share with you in the coming 15 minutes what the innovation strategy is of the Port of Antwerp But mainly we would like to focus also on things we have been doing and are still doing. Because innovation is in the first place a means to, and that means that we should do things. So as a port authority, we have four roles. We are a landlord, managing concessions and so on, a regulator, the harbor master, services related to that. We are an operator in Antwerp. We have, for instance, our own web services, but mainly we also a community builder, and that's a role we have been taking up stronger and stronger in the last few years. So if you look there, what that means is enabling innovation in and around the port. And three main initiatives we have been supporting is, first of all, next port. You know that the supply chain is becoming more and more digital, and that we need an improvement and an optimization of the overall supply chain, also on a global level. So data sharing is a crucial element in that. And in the last years, we have been investing significant amount of time and money in setting up that data sharing platform for Antwerp. A chain port is an international alliance of major containers, deep sea ports, Shanghai, Singapore, Busan, Hamburg, Rotterdam, Los Angeles, or part of that. And there we learn from each other because each of us have challenges on sustainability, on mobility, and we look how we can cooperate. Last week we had a 2-day virtual session in discussing and defining how can we become more connected on a global level, for instance, by data sharing. And a last initiative there is the beacon. Some of you will know that, but the beacon is an ecosystem focused on artificial intelligence and IoT in Antwerp. It's also a physical location where today 45 companies are present, and it's going from small startups to larger corporates like Orange and Microsoft. And there we bring these people together, in total 70 companies are part of that, to see how we can bring innovation also to business. And the Port of Antwerp is one of the founding partners of this and a crucial element in the valorization of that. If you look to our other roles, then our long-term strategy is actually very simple. The thing we would like to do there is building a digital nervous system across the port. As you have been seeing, the Port of Antwerp is 120 square kilometers, 12,000 hectares. It's one of the largest areas of ports in the world, and a lot of activities are going around there. So we are bringing in technology to support this in monitoring and serving better that port by using smart cameras, for instance. Okay. Next, please. So if we look, how do we do that in practice? Actually, our strategy is built around 4 pillars. First of all, we are in a period of accelerating emerging technologies. You know that AI, mobility, automation, so are evolving very fast. And there we look to these technologies, what can be the value of them into a port context. So in the last years, we have been doing more than 30 projects in bringing new technology into the port. And I think we have a few first evers, like the Echo drone, a fully automated sounding boat. We built a hydro turbine using creating energy on our locks. So we try to look, I will show you some examples later on plastic capturing. So looking how we can move that port business further and create a port as being a center of innovation. On the left side there, left below, we are a 1,600 people organization. I think innovation is also a mindset. So what we do there, stimulate and trigger people, and that's from the blue collars to the senior management levels in thinking out of the box, bringing new things in your daily work. And how do we do that? Is by providing time budget to people in setting up innovative projects. Right up there we see indication the port as an open innovation platform. We have a lot of assets in the port. We are in a period of accelerating technology development. We like to approach innovation not from a problem point of view, but from a potential point of view. Looking to your assets, looking to your people, combined with enabling technologies and see what's the potential there. And last but not least, we strongly believe that the companies who focus on setting up platforms and building networks are the companies who will have a sustainable future. So the extreme idea we had a couple of years ago, let's open the port, everybody is welcome, do your thing, and we see what's happening. Okay. From an operational point of view, we could of course not implement that, but in that way, we choose three topics to work on. First of all, on drones, second on smart shipping, and on air quality. I think on drones and smart shipping, the following speakers will go more in detail on that. And about community building, I think I just explained that before. Okay, so if you now look which kind of topics are we working around, that's quite broad because a port platform is a broad range of activities are present there. It's coming from energy, a lot of shipping, mobility topics are present there. Also new economy, about circular economy. So these are emerging there. And I will show you some examples. Plastic capturing, Antwerp is a very second largest chemical hub in the world. And in the last year, actually, we have been building two new solutions, first ever, first time in the world that happened. On the top right, you see there the Nullo plastic, which has been become operational last weekend. So there, it's a system built to suck up the small plastic pellets which are present along the river or on other locations. So company Jan de Nul has been building that. That was based on an innovation challenge we put in the market last summer 2019, and in less than 1 year, a complete new solution, first time ever, has been built. So we're doing that. We can remove the historical pollution which is present in, for instance, nature reserve like here along the river de Schelde. On the left side, there you see the plastic capturing and the duck. So plastic and other waste is coming by wind and other means is coming to the water. And here we have a full energies without using any energy. We can collect on hotspots and supported by wind and wave energy. We collect waste and then it can be removed and further collected and transported to specific installations. Okay. Another example, and it has been in the press already quite a lot in the last months, is also about using new technologies in COVID times. And I think a very good example is about wearables. We were doing a project with Rombit on man overboard detection, fall detection, but with COVID coming in, they adapted that to the 1.5 meter social distances, which was one of the rules in Belgium. So by implementing that on a very short notice, already beginning of May, we could test that environment and was actually working quite well. You see on the right side. Also, the King of Belgium who was visiting the port and to whom it was explained. Okay, so a last topic I would like to tackle is our digital twin. And in the coming slides, I will show you what we mean with that. We strongly believe, and you see it's an evolution going very fast, we will have a combination of human intelligence and sensors with more and more digital sensors and knowledge and intelligence. So combining these two, I think, will leverage and put us forward in a lot of topics and will improve safety, for instance, will improve efficiency of people. So technology, I don't believe technology will take over, but technology should assist us. Yes. So if we say a digital twin, what is that? You see here an analog version of that. In the 1930s, there was the World Expo in Antwerp. You see here a very nice maquette of the city and the port of Antwerp. But of course, in the meantime, we have been evolving. And today, you see that we have built a digital twin in the port of Antwerp. So that's using smart cameras, that's using all kinds of sensors, weather information, depth information, information from the windmills, And we bring that together in one integrated system with a visualization on that so that our staff can more easy get information what is happening in the port. Okay. I will show you a small movie what that means.
Good morning and welcome back. General status report. Today is an overall sunny day, with a light breeze from the northwest. Port traffic is busy as usual at this time of day, with 221 barges and 180 seagoing vessels in port. We're expecting 95 new arrivals and 73 departures today. Road mobility is within efficiency norms. There are 2 INOS quality alerts and 1 ongoing event. Would you like to investigate? At 8:51, INOS 22 detected possible hazardous compounds. Analyzing. According to historic wind data and ship tracking, a possible cause might be the chemical tanker My Fair Lady. Would you like to collect an air sample? Please select available UAV. Calculating flight trajectory. ETA in 1 minute 30 seconds. Initiate. Confirmed. I am Apika. Welcome to the port of the future.
So Apika is our concept where we say we will come to an integrated system, a digital nervous system, where technology will assist people to do better, safer, more efficient their job. And today we have been in the phase already of operational implementation. We have defined more than 110 use cases in the Port of Antwerp to work on that. So for the coming years, we are building that system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Erwin and Piet, for elaborating on our innovation initiatives and strategy, and for also demonstrating that amazing video on Apika. I think it's clear that the Port of Antwerp has already taken great steps in its digital and innovation transition, and that there is still much more to come in the future. Now, to make things a bit more tangible, we have invited 3 guest speakers that have a strong connection with our port. The first speaker is John Bakelmans, who is CEO at Rombit, an Antwerp-based technology company that makes ports and industrial enterprises more efficient, secure, and resilient. We've already set up many projects with Rombit. Pete already talked about the wearables and more specifically the COVID wearable recently. And today, John, he will talk more about smart cameras. So John, a very good morning and welcome to this press event.
Thank you so much, Leonard, and appreciate you guys inviting us to talk about our newest innovation we have actually been working on together for quite a while now. So let's go to the first slide. Edge-based computer vision is quite a new innovation, and computer vision, while computer vision is a technology which is gaining more and more interest of the general market, I think edge-based computer vision is something new, and I'll explain you why edge versus cloud or centralized computer vision is a little bit different, and I'll also give you a couple of good indications of use cases we are working on today together with the Port of Antwerp. Today, this technology is in innovation stage, and we're working together with the Port of Antwerp to mature the technology and to get it on the market probably by the end of this year or beginning of next year. The cases we're working on are a number of important use cases for the Port of Antwerp. Anomaly detection and traffic flow management are 2 important cases which need to help the efficiency of the port on a day-by-day basis. And the big difference between traditional computer vision and what we call edge-based computer vision is that basically the technology is attached to the camera to do all the, let me call it, intelligent finding of particular objects or things you want to investigate. So we can make any camera in the port today. We can make any camera smart by attaching a little device very close to the camera, and in that device, all the magic happens. You basically define what you want to investigate, what you want to look at. It happens within that little device, and the data doesn't have to stream from the device typically to a centralized cloud or data center. And that's why we call it edge-based computer vision. Let's go to the next slide. The reason why we've done that is because we are a scale-up, and you have to choose in which niche you want to compete at. And this is an ecosystem analysis of the entire market covering computer vision. And you can see that it typically, you can look at that market in 7 different ways, going from streaming data collection or training data in how you want to investigate certain events. Of course, AI is part of the entire technology stack. AI and machine learning are clear differentiator. And once you then map it, as the next slide will show, onto a chart, you can basically understand how the market is divided today and what all the different players are working on. Might be a busy slide, doesn't really matter. The big blue circle on the top is where we decided to play, because we knew that, especially from an edge perspective, so doing all the technology very close to the camera and not centralized in the cloud was our niche. And that's where we're now working with the Port of Antwerp to optimize those technologies. So let's look a little bit into those use cases. One of the very important use cases, and I think Erwin hinted to that in his introduction, there is so many assets in the Port of Antwerp. I think they have 500 kilometers of quay. And if you have 500 kilometers of quay and you have a lot of assets on those quays, but also in the water, you want to understand what's going on. A lot of damage is happening to those quays, and sometimes it goes undetected who caused that damage, who caused damage to the quay itself, to the fenders at the quay. The Port of Antwerp wants to be better understanding when it happens, so that they can also replace and repair those damages, but also find the culprit who actually caused the damage, because today they typically go unnoticed. And that is not a good thing, because quays who started leaking, of course, have a problem moving forward. If you go further to other use cases, one important use case is, of course, how traffic is flowing through the harbor and the port area. And because there is a limited amount of roads, and because, of course, the ring road and the belt road around Antwerp is a very important artery of traffic throughout Europe, we want to keep traffic flowing as good as you can. And what we do is, and you can look at the next slide, there's a number of areas where you want to focus on. You want to know who is where are which traffic streams, where are the trucks coming from, where are they going to, and how do we anticipate now where there are certain bottlenecks happening within the next 5-10 minutes, or even the next 2 or 3 hours. Once we know where the bottlenecks are, we can, from a predictive matter, also start to put the traffic streams in different areas around the port. So analytics of understanding how the traffic flow is going today in real time, or right now in real time, but then also predicting how it's going to be based upon past traffic patterns, is a very important use case. And that's one of the priority use cases we're working on with the port. Another one we're working on, and that's the next slide, is traffic from trains. And trains, especially in a chemical environment, trains have to be completely checked before they depart. And today, when a train inside a company, for example, when they assemble a train, the driver of the train has to do a manual inspection of the entire train, one wagon at a time. And today, sometimes they do that automatically through a checklist, and they don't go around a sometimes 1 or 2 kilometer long train. So in combination with a number of other innovators, with, for example, drones, we, together with the Port of Antwerp, we collaborated on ensuring that through a drone-based camera, again, using the same edge technology we are working on, they can actually fly next to the train and can do the manual inspection or the visual inspection with a drone. Of course, that drone has to have not only eyes, it has to have the intelligence to detect certain abnormalities and make sure that those get notified back to the driver of the train so that he doesn't start his journey before actually the train has been inspected fully. And to be able to do that, you need basically an adaptive self-learning capability. And so the entire technology we're building is a machine learning technology which gets smarter as you go, but of course, which you also have to train initially. And that training through the technology we selected has become very, very simple. And we can distribute the training knowledge very easily to the 400-500 cameras we have today in the port in a very simple and straightforward manner, so that even if you do edge-based detection of anomalies, you can still distribute a lot of the intelligence and understanding of the knowledge you build up to all those cameras. A next use case I wanted to talk about is the one you saw in the initial slide. Optimizing lock capacity is something a lot of people are struggling with, and typically that gets done manually through the lock master. So where can technology help here to help the lock master to better get the ships, and in what priority get the ships into the lock? How can you still optimize the amount of ships you get through one lock load? That is something we have been working on quite a while, and where we know that we have great technology there to increase the efficiency again of the port. And then I think the last one is safety compliance. As you heard from Pete, we have been working a lot on safety and security, and the wearable technology is one of our tool sets where we're using it with, which we launched actually this year in April. And COVID, of course, is just one application of that safety and security stack. But imagine people, workers in the port, not wearing their helmet, not wearing their yellow jacket or the things they need to wear, and imagine technology overlooking their shoulder to make sure that they are compliant to the things they need to wear. Also, that you can do using the same technology stack by, again, making sure that you can detect the important stuff, but by still protecting the privacy. Because once you go starting to look at people, you need to also protect that privacy. And edge-based technology is exactly great technology for that, because inside of the camera we blur everything which you cannot see, and there will never be a visual sent to somebody who needs to get alerted. It will only be an event sent to somebody saying, hey, that particular person on that quay is not wearing a helmet. Please have somebody go to that person to make sure that he or she becomes compliant. And I think those were the slides. If the next slide, yeah, those were the slides. Thank you so much, Leonard, and I'll stay on for any possible questions.
Okay. Thanks a lot, John. Really, really interesting stuff. And we're at the Port of Antwerp looking forward to see how this technology will evolve and make ports even more safe, more efficient, and more secure. Our next speaker for today is Thomas de Kerf. He's a researcher in the Autodrone project from the University of Antwerp. In this specific project, they are inspecting infrastructure with drones. Thomas is an industrial engineer in aviation and has experience at Atlas Copco and DEME. We at the Port of Antwerp have been collaborating with the University of Antwerp for many years on multiple projects. And today, Thomas will talk about a very exciting one, more specifically, the oil spill detection using drones. So Thomas, welcome to you as well. And we're very eager to hear about this exciting project.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always fun to present our work, and especially in a more non-academic way. So I will do my best to eliminate all of the typical academic terms that we normally use. It's also very fun as a university to work with the industry. So we get real life projects that we can we can execute from start to finish. So as a good researcher, we set out, well, the Port of Antwerp asked us the question, is it possible to detect oil spills using drones? So that's a very interesting question. And it appears that there has been a lot of research recently, especially a couple of years ago with the oil spill horizon disaster. There's a lot of research going on to detect oil spills, but most of that research has been done on open oceans or with crude oil and the use of satellites or planes. So the technology that is investigated before is not always transferable to the smaller environment like the Port of Antwerp, or even it's quite big, but it's nothing compared to an open ocean. And also the type of oil is different. On an open ocean, you will mostly detect crude oil, but now we're detecting refined oil. So those are the main differences. So that's why we started our own research. On this slide, you can see the entire electromagnetic spectrum. So each part of that spectrum has its own technologies, its own sensors to see what's happening in that spectrum. I will shortly go over each part and explain why it's useful for this case or not. So the first is the ultraviolet light. That's very effective in detecting oil or water. The only downside is that you will need an external light source. So you can either use the sun or a laser. But since you cannot use the sun at night, obviously, and equipping a drone with a laser is pretty dangerous. So safety-wise, that's a no-go. Then the next spectrum is the visible light spectrum. So that's between the ultraviolet and the infrared. That's a pretty small spectrum, so you can use normal cameras, but the amount of information is not that high. Plus, at night, it's pretty useless. Then we have the most exciting spectrum of all, the infrared spectrum. I'm doing my PhD on this, so I must say this is the most exciting spectrum. It's divided up into 4 parts. You have the near infrared, the short wave, mid wave, and long wave infrared. In short, the near infrared, it's too small to really see a difference between oil and water. And the mid wave infrared is way too expensive. So you cannot have a couple of drones flying around with incredibly expensive equipment. That's not feasible. So that leaves the short wave infrared and long wave infrared. Shortwave is very exciting technology. There's a lot of research going on, so the prices have dropped significantly. But it also uses an external light source. It has to use an external light source, not as much as the ultraviolet light, but still at night it sometimes will be difficult to really detect or differentiate between oil and water. Then we have the long wave infrared region. Those are the normal infrared cameras you see now using popping up everywhere to check the temperatures of people for elevated body temperatures. So this is the most we think this is the best technology to use to detect oil spill. And because of when there is like an oil spill, we have the top layer that is an oil sheen. The oil always floats. So if you look at it with an infrared camera, then you will see a temperature difference between the water and the oil, because the oil will be water. During day, it's illuminated or heated by the sun, and during night, the reverse effect will be apparent. On this image, you can see our lab tests. This on the left-hand side, you have the long wave infrared, and on the right-hand side, you have the short wave infrared. The right-hand side is a little bit mixed, the water and the oil, but you can still clearly see the difference. And on the left-hand side, you can also see the difference between the types of oil. So that's very interesting to take away. In a lab test, everything always goes correct. You have a very controlled circumstances. So we decided together with the port to do a field test inside of the Port of Antwerp. We put some white absorbing bands. We made a rectangle, and then we put oil inside of those rectangles. And those bands absorb oil, but not the water. So the oil was always contained inside of the square. So it's ideal test conditions. On the next slide, you can see it in action. That's filmed from on the quay. That's the water moving about. And this is also a very good indication of why we cannot only use RGB images to detect oil, because you can see the sun is at a certain angle, and it causes interferences inside of the rectangle. So that's why we're using infrared cameras, or maybe or we're actually using both of them, but I will come back to that later. So the ultimate goal was to fly over the port with a drone, and together with an RGB camera and an infrared camera, and that's what we did together with Havik. That's our drone service provider that made a flight for us. So that was very convenient. These are the raw images, so you cannot really see anything going on the infrared image, because that's because the scaling is a little bit different. But on the next slide, you can identify the difference between water and oil. So we made a neural network, and we did some post-processing on those images, so that we are able to learn from the combination of the infrared and the RGB images. We put them through a neural network. It trains quite some time on really big computers. And in the end, we are able to get a network that is accurate, pixel accurate of 84%. So that's pretty impressive. So 80 out of 100 pixels, 84 are indicated as oil correctly. So that's a very good idea. So that's a very good result, actually. This network was trained on really big computing farms, but in the end, we were able to scale down the network even more, so that it runs on edge computing, like John mentioned before. So in the end, we will have a drone with a thermal camera, an RGB camera, and that's connected to this Jetson Nano. And whenever he continuously process the images, and whenever there's an error, or whenever there's an oil spill detected, it will just send an SMS message to an operator, so he can have a look at the RGB images. So this was the last slide. I went really top level on the neural network, because I think it's very exciting, but I know from experience that most people don't. So that's why. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to ask me. There's my contact information, or afterwards on the Q&A. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Thomas, for your presentation. It's truly a great solution for a really, really big problem in ports across the world. So we're looking forward to the next steps of this exciting collaboration. Thank you very much. Last but not least for today, we have Louis Robert Kool, who is CEO and founder of CFAR. CFAR is developing services to accelerate smart shipping in inland and short sea sector. The Port of Antwerp is closely involved in the growth of CFAR. The first vessel using the developed technology that he will talk about was a vessel from the Port Authority. Well, today Louis will elaborate on shore-supported navigation. We're looking forward to that presentation. So Louis, good morning to you as well. And yeah, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Leonard, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. As said, today I will shortly introduce CFAR and our innovative remote ship management services, starting with the next slide. So CFAR develops technology to remotely operate automated barges and vessels for inland shipping and short sea shipping. CFAR works as a ship management company, offering services to ship owners and operators. And the first vessel like Leonard said, that we equipped with our technology was a vessel from the Port of Antwerp. And this cooperation launched our company to land its first commercial contracts. So important is to identify the why of implementing smart shipping services in a traditional market. And today we see two main problems. One, the crew, the inflow of new recruits to navigate these vessels is decreasing, and the need for personnel cannot meet the demand for capacity in the market, certainly keeping the modal shift in mind. And then secondly, the OPEX case. To accelerate the green transition of the inland and coastal vessels, a strong business case is needed. And by implementing our services, vessel operating costs can decrease up to 25%. Today, we already have several active vessels on the Flemish waterways, with the Port of Antwerp as a central point. And in cooperation with the Flemish waterway authorities, we are allowed to navigate unmanned and crew-reduced vessels for commercial transport on all canals and rivers in the Flemish region, as one of the first companies in Europe. Now we know the why, and let's look at the how now. Our engineers designed a general control architecture consisting of multiple sensors, such as radar and LiDAR, and not much difference from the autonomous car development. And we implement this control system on existing vessels or on new built vessels. Secondly, the vessels are connected with our shore control center, where a licensed captain can take control of the vessels. And the captain has two options. He can directly control or directly steer the vessel, or he can activate an autonomous mode with supervision. And for each project, we look for the right equilibrium between human and computer. And autonomy is used to support the remote operator. This approach must lead to a captain-vessel ratio of one captain responsible for 3 vessels in the future. As a result, we achieve 4 goals. 1, the CAPEX, reducing the investment cost in a new built vessel, lower or less crew accommodation, and larger cargo capacity. Secondly, we lower the operating cost up to 25% of the vessel. Thirdly, by increasing the safety, by integrating smart safety and navigation tools. And lastly, one of the most important ones, by achieving and accelerating sustainable green shipping can only be done by strengthening the business case and creating room to invest in green propulsion and green solutions for the vessel. Towards the shipping market and the vessel owners, we offer our solution via 3 methods. 1, unmanned navigation, so completely unmanned vessels, no personnel on board, and this can be done on fixed trajectories. Secondly, crew supported. There is still crew on board, but we extend the navigation time of a vessel with the same crew. So a vessel crewed with 1 captain that is allowed to navigate up to 10 hours per day can now navigate in 24 hours operation. And lastly, a crew reduced method. We decrease the amount of crew on board of the vessel. As an example, here is a short movie of one of our active barges in the unmanned method. This is a commercial project navigating 16 hours per day on a daily basis. As you see, the vessel isn't equipped with a wheelhouse. This is a vessel fully remotely operated, diesel electric, and carries a capacity of 400 tons. Last but not least, we close this introduction with our tagline, the best helmsmen do stand on shore. And by introducing smart shipping, We want to be an accelerating in the shipping industry, and so help the industry to reach Europe's sustainability goals. Question or feedback, please do not hesitate to contact me, and I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Louis. Really interesting stuff. I'm sure that we'll hear a lot more from you and from your company in the future. Okay, everyone, we've now come to the final part of this session, the Q&A. If you have, so we received already quite a lot of questions during the presentation. If you have more questions, feel free to ask them via the Q&A on the right-hand side. We received one question, for example, for Erwin specifically. What do you see as the most important emerging technologies within innovation and digitalization?
That's a good question. Well, what you have seen today is that we are building a lot of Lego blocks. So AI, machine learning, sensors, cameras, drones, that we are able to combine to come up with solutions for relevant use cases, like oil spill detection, safety and security, and so on. And there's one element that is emerging in terms of technology that is going to help us to be even more impactful, that's namely 5G. So the next generation of the mobile network will allow us to guarantee always good enough network connectivity, slower latency, which will enable us to have cameras in drones that are sending through real-time pictures that we can act upon, the same with tugboats and so on. So that's why we have invited the telcos to have or to set up a 5G pilot environment in the port, and we currently have 3 of them operational. Now, from an innovation perspective, looking more broadly beyond digitalization and the pure tech, then I think in terms of energy transition and circularity, a lot of innovative technologies are on the horizon with regard to carbon capture and storage, the fabrication of green hydrogen, the storage of energy, and so on. And there again, we are creating hotspots for innovation, but those technologies really are going to be the lever moving forward to get to the goals Europe has set out towards 2030, 2050.
Okay, thanks a lot for that answer. The next question, yeah, it was directed actually to everyone because I think it applies to all of the speakers. But I'll let Erwin have a first go. A digitalized port is also very vulnerable to cyber attacks. Are there any certain measures taken to ensure the cybersecurity of these systems?
Yes, that's a very relevant question. When I came on board and created my team as part of the innovation team, next to it, there was also the foundation or the creation of a cyber resilience team. And let me first explain what that means. Cyber security is about protecting your assets for a cyber attack. Cyber resilience is the acknowledgement that regardless of what you do, you cannot guarantee 100% that a cyber attack will never be successful. So what do you do then in order to make sure, if that happens, that first of all, you detect it as soon as possible? Secondly, that the impact is reduced to a minimum. And thirdly, that you're back into operation as soon as possible. So towards that goal, my cyber resilience team has been emphasizing on a lot of the traditional cybersecurity things, but they have extended that to awareness training for users, phishing campaigns to make people aware, because the user is still the most vulnerable part in cybersecurity, but also go to the more mature stages in terms of ethical hacking, bounty programs to make sure that the best hackers in the world help us to become resilient against cyber attacks. And the second element is that in October of last year, the ports in Belgium, so Bruges, Ghent, and Antwerp, were labeled NIS compliant as a consequence of the European Cybersecurity Directive, which is going to help us and also push us forward in terms of compliancy, taking the next steps. But it also guarantees that we have full focus of the federal government in support if something happens.
Okay, thank you very much. We received a question for Pete, more specifically about the digital twin in Appica that you showed. Great demo. Thanks for showing this. Appica will have a great added value for the Port Authority. But what do you think Appica will mean for your customers and for the various stakeholders in the port?
Okay, good question, because we should not do it only for ourselves, but also bring value to the port community. And I think by building that system, first of all, for our own operations, it will become a kind of portal for the companies in the port to collect information, what's going on into that port. And we will come to one integrated system, and companies will be able to consult that. I think the next step is, of course, linking information which is available at other companies in the port with that integrated system. So that step by step, we come to one digital twin, one system over all the port. That will take many years still, but step by step, we will connect other companies into that so that we can manage the port as an overall system.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that, Pete. We have a question as well for John from Rombit. John, you talked about asset inspection and traffic flow as use cases for your smart cameras. Which other applications or use cases do you see as possible for your technology?
Yeah, it's a good question. And what I think the movie you guys made shows a lot of that prediction or for that perspective already. But one of the use cases we're working on today, every ship coming into the Port of Antwerp, when it gets to the quay, it needs to attach itself to shore power. And how do you detect that a ship is there? And how do you detect that the ship is connected to the shore power? A combination of cameras detecting that the ship is there and ensuring that somebody takes off current from the shore power, and the combination of the two coming together into that Appica platform is exactly what we're doing today. But in the future, I think it's going to be more of a predictive play. If you know that a ship is already emitting, for example, on the Appica movie, the My Fair Lady ship was emitting from its exhaust some substances it should not emit into the air. If you know that it's coming, you can predict that something will happen. So predictive technology based upon real-time data is the future towards everything we're doing today. But of course, understanding today what we're doing now, learning from that, teaching the models is exactly what we need today to make it into a predictive state.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, John. Then also a question for the drones and for Thomas. Thomas, if you can also go on stage. So you talked about the drones detecting oil spills, and the question for you is, what are the next steps in this project, and when do you expect this to be fully operational?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, especially for us. We're not used to really doing a project from end to finish. We're more academic, so if we do the research, then it's all good. But we really want to do this full potential, and the next steps are to get more data and to do some more tests in different lighting conditions, because we found that that's the biggest driver to errors. Mm-hmm. But I can't really say a timeline for this.
Okay.
Yeah. No, well, from our perspective, the sooner the better.
True.
Because we are the 5th largest bunkering port in the world, so oil spills are an issue, and we want to make sure that we can detect them as soon as possible, because that reduces costs and environmental impact. So it's a combination of making sure that the recognition with the cameras that is already at 84%, that we can improve that. But I think it's good enough to have a minimum viable product. And if we can hook it up to a drone, which is also tied to regulation that is going to go into effect next year, then we have the ambition to make this operational somewhere in the course of 2021.
Yes, I do feel that the technology is really working right now. So I think we have to do more tests, but I don't expect any more problems, or just some fine tuning of the algorithms. That's all.
Okay, great. Then we have, I think, one more question, and that is for Louis from CFAR. So, Louis, if you can also maybe join the stage for your question. And the question is, will you be able to fully eliminate crew on board of ships in the future? And then a second smaller question, do you have plans, and I can probably already predict that answer, do you have plans to expand your services outside of Flanders? So, Louis, if you can join the stage.
Yes. First question, that's a very good question, actually. Will we reach or will we have crewless vessels in the future? Yes, we will. But the question is that always necessary, or is that the end goal, reaching autonomy and crewless vessels? The real end goal is achieving highly efficient shipping. So there is financial room in the business case for green transition, and that we can attract more cargo to the waterways, the modal shift. But in some cases, the answer will be positive. Yes, autonomy and crewless vessels are the goal for specific projects like line shipping, fixed A to B trajectories with known same start and end locations. But often the answer will be negative. No, there will be always crew on board in the other kind of project, and the reasons are broad. But to name one, to achieve full crewless vessels, the investment costs are very high, and sometimes looking for a match between the human and the machine delivers a better solution than obtaining full autonomy. For example, a combination with a captain in a shore control center and a deckhand on board, where the deckhand focuses on maintenance and safety. And so crew-reduced navigation will be, in many cases, an equally productive solution than as completely crewless vessels. I hope that's an answer to the first question. And to answer the second question, the answer is a full-blown yes, of course. We are proving that our solutions are working in the Flemish market. We have our first projects coming up next year in the Netherlands, also in Wallonia, and after that, of course, France. So the expansion plan is already in action. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Louis, for that answer. Okay, everyone, that was it actually for the Q&A. And we've also come to the end of our press event. 1 hour later, I think that we heard a lot about the innovation strategy, innovation initiatives from Piet and Erwin, and then we had some 3 really interesting pioneering projects from our guest speakers. So I would very much like to thank all of our speakers for their inspiring presentations. I would like to thank you, the audience, for participating. If you do have any more questions towards the Port of Antwerp or towards one of the guest speakers, do not hesitate to send them to press@portofantwerp.com, and we will be glad to answer them. So we hope you had a really interesting session, and we wish you a great day, and hope to see you at one of our next events. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.